Hello everybody, this is Havoc back with a deeper dive into Vassals in Crusader Kings III. I've had a lot of questions after my first Vassals video went live, so I wanted to go ahead and bump this up the production line and create another video clearing the air around them. If there is one concept I want to get across with this video, it is that your vassals are not 100% subservient to you as their liege, and that they do not owe you 100% of their resources or time. We will look into how they operate, how you can create them, and how you interact with them. Some of this information may be a repeat of the first video, but it is intended to give you a more comprehensive and detailed look into Vassals as a whole. Let's dive in. The holding system. I think one of the more confusing parts of Vassals is who gets what, and how, and why, and where, so I'll break it down. Within your own domain, the land that you directly own, you personally will own every castle holding, which is shown by the blue ribbon I've talked about. And while you still own the entire county directly, in every city holding, you will have a vassal running it with the title of mayor, which I've noticed is always a republic government vassal. We'll go into what that means in just a little bit. Every one of these city holding vassals is considered a direct vassal, but because they are below the title of count, they do not count towards your vassal limit. You could have 100 cities that you personally own in your own domain, and none of the mayors of those cities would count towards this vassal limit. For every temple holding, it depends on your religion's theocratic or lay clergy doctrines. Under the theocratic doctrine, every temple in your domain is leased out by the leading religious authority that is on your council. He or she will pay the lease fees for all the temple holdings only if they have a positive opinion of you, so keep this in mind. This person is still considered a vassal, but will not contribute to the vassal limit either. The lay clergy doctrine is a bit different. Temple holdings are not leased out, they are treated as any regular holding and can therefore be held by any regular vassal. Unlike cities, the potential owners of this holding, while still directly under you in regards to the holding, can be above the title of mayor. Should that be the case, that vassal would count towards your vassal limit. Confused yet? One very important thing to now understand is that this system I just explained for your own domain will then apply exactly the same way to the domains of any vassals over the title of baron, so count, duke, and king. If you were to click inside the domain of any of your vassals, you would see that they personally own every castle, every city is held by a republic vassal, and every temple run by their religious official that is in their own personal council, etc., etc. Think of it as a form of vassal inception. With this in mind, while your direct vassal will always hold a lesser title than you, the vassals in their domain will themselves be of a lesser title than your vassal. For example, if I am a king, the highest title my direct vassals can be are dukes. The highest title in my duke's vassals are counts. And lastly for this section, and probably one of the more crucial things to know, any character that is within your vassal's domain is not your vassal, at least not directly. This is good to remember and can be relevant when we get to the vassal limit and how to manage that. Taxes and levies. In the first vassals video, I mentioned the two greatest contributions that a vassal provides, taxes and levies. When you go to the Realm tab, you see a breakdown of what each direct vassal gives you in terms of levies and taxes, as well as the total for all vassals down at the bottom. The amount of taxes and levies a vassal gives you is determined by a wide range of factors, but before we get into that, I wanted to address the tax and levy bars to clarify some information. The bars you see are broken up into different colors. You'll notice that there is a vassal that only has red and blue, while every vassal underneath has red, blue, and black. As I explain these bars, think of the colors as stacked on top of each other like layers. The vassals with two colored bars is your strongest vassal. As such, they set the bar, per se, for how much a vassal can contribute to you as their liege. The red bar is the bottom layer and the total amount of money and levies your vassal could give to you were they to be at 100% contribution. That will never happen, but it does give you an idea. The blue bar is on top of the red bar, and it represents the percentage that your vassal actually contributes. Hover over the income bar and you'll see the total taxable income of that vassal and what percentage they are giving to you. Hover over that percentage number and you will see a breakdown of that number and any modifiers that apply to it. The same information goes for your vassal's levies as well. They will give you X% of their total levies to you per your arranged contract. The black bar in these other vassals is simply there because your strongest vassal contributes so much more in terms of total potential value that they needed to create that empty space to give it perspective. By default, there are percentages for each vassal type inside each government type in Crusader Kings III, and knowing these percentages will help you decide what land to give away to random people or perhaps hold onto to get the more resources out of them. Just a warning, CKIII does round out numbers in this game when it comes to modifiers and percentages. This will cause some potentially conflicting numbers for your money and levy count, which means you might see 82 levies on the bars while the actual amount is 85, for instance. Moving along feudal governments, all feudal vassals at the normal contribution levels will be 10% for taxes, 25% for levies. For republic vassals, it's 20% taxes, 10% levies, and for theocracy vassals, it's 15% and 10%. For the tribal governments, your tribal vassals are at 10% taxes, 20% levies, which cannot be negotiated, and for republics, it's 5% taxes and 10% levies. Finally, for the clan governments, they are definitely unique in that their contribution level depends on their opinion of their liege. For these clan types, the contribution level is maxed out at 25.1% for taxes and a truly massive 60.5% for levies. When it comes to tribal governments inside clan governments, it's a bit unique as well, as they are tied to the liege's level of fame, and at that lowest level is 10% for taxes and 20% for levies. For feudal governments inside clans, their contribution levels are 10% taxes, 25% levies, theocracies are 10% for both, and republics are at 20% and 10%. I have no doubts that I am missing percentages. Those are all I could find at the time of this video. In terms of factors that affect those listed percentages, all government types will see at least a 50% reduction to taxes and levies if their liege is not their rightful one. This means that you will need to own a specific title to get that reduction removed, and can be a huge number boost depending on how many large vassals you have. And as I just mentioned in the list of percentages, a vassal's opinion of you can have a massive impact on the contribution percentage and even the level of prestige. This level of variation means that none of the governments play the same as the player, and there are pretty huge incentives to play as each government type available. Lastly, I'll once again bring up the feudal vassal's contract, as this is a good way to modify how much a feudal vassal is giving you. Note that modifying these contracts will incur an opinion penalty of that vassal, and without a hook, it will also cause tyranny and an opinion penalty that affects every single one of your vassals, so please be careful when you choose to use it. War and vassal levies. This section will tackle the largest number of questions I've already received from the previous video, where players see their vassals running around with their armies and not helping you in a war. Here's the deal. A vassal contributes their number of levies to you as discussed in the last section. The number of levies they provide is automatically included in the overall number of troops you can draw up when you go to raise all armies. That percentage is all they owe from their maximum number of levies. Outside of that small number of troops, they are not obligated to join your wars, and this is pretty historically accurate for the time. Remember, you do not completely control your vassals. They can do pretty much whatever they want to do until their liege hits the high crown authority, and they really have no reason to join you. So if you are in a war and you see your vassals' armies are just wandering around as a neutral gray Bard army instead of a blue Bard allied army, this is exactly why. Now that being said, you can form an alliance with one of your vassals, and honestly this is a pretty smart strategy. Why? Typically a vassal will be easier to keep pleased than an outside character. Your vassals will also trend towards not going so hard on the offensive with wars, like with other full countries as well. Not only that, but having a powerful vassal that has a lot of levies will give you a decently loyal ally that will be willing to join you on offensive wars with little chance of them scheming behind your back. Typically. Crown Authority. As just mentioned, your vassals have a lot of free reign to do what they want despite declaring you their ruler. Their freedom is directly tied to your level of Crown Authority. As your Crown Authority increases, their freedom gets more and more restricted. The lowest is autonomous vassals, allowing maximum freedom to your vassals and pretty much no benefits for the liege outside of a +10 opinion modifier for all vassals. Limited Crown Authority allows titles to be revoked and vassals to be retracted, meaning you can take away the vassal status of a character by ripping their lands away from them. Limited Crown Authority also bumps up clan government vassals' contribution. All of this at the expense of a -10 opinion across all vassals. High Crown Authority sees another -10 opinion hit to vassals with a heaping pile of freedoms for the liege and restrictions for vassals. Contributions bump up across the board. Vassals can no longer wage their own wars with other vassals in your own realm without a hook on their liege, and a vassal's titles cannot be inherited by anyone outside of your realm. That last one is pretty huge, and it can set you up as the successor for any lands where a vassal does not have a family heir that resides in your own realm. For the liege, it unlocks every type of succession law, and while it still has some requirements to pass, the option to be able to modify these is a big deal and can help set up your dynasty for a very, very long time. Succession laws will definitely be a subject I'll do in a video in a future. With absolute Crown Authority, it all benefits the liege as they receive an even higher percentage of taxes and levies, and rulers can 100% designate their own heirs. This will come at a pretty huge -30 opinion penalty for all vassals, but I still think it's pretty doable to manage all of them in spite of this. Vassal opinion. When it comes to vassal opinion of you, we've already mentioned several ways to influence them positively already in this video and in the first vassals video, but I'll lay down a short list here. Powerful vassals need a council seat. It's very important to give your powerful vassals seats on the council. It's even worth having a crappily skilled powerful vassal in a position he's definitely not suited for just to satiate his opinion of you. Any powerful vassal that is not on the council has a -40 opinion penalty on you, and that's pretty massive. There are limited council seats though, so larger empires might have a harder time juggling who goes where, and that's understandable, but also a part of running a massive empire. Another very simple solution to satisfy a vassal is to give them titles. Gifting even a small title of county boosts their opinion of you by +40 for 50 years. That will pretty much get you through an entire ruling lifetime, so it's pretty significant. Larger titles will of course be given a larger opinion boost, and those boosts stack. So gifting 2 counties will boost them by 80 opinion for 50 years. Your titles are limited though, so be careful about pulling an Oprah Winfrey and giving everyone their own titles. It's also a great way to get out of being over your domain limit. Having too many personal domains will cause all vassals to contribute less taxes and levies. To solve that, simply grant your lowest income domain over to any character to get rid of them. You can grant it to a disgruntled vassal to boost opinion, or create an entirely new vassal by granting the lands to a landless character. If you do the later option, I highly recommend gifting it to someone with a higher stewardship skill, as they'll be able to extract the most taxes and increase development much quicker. There is a strategy to deal with going over your vassal limit, and that is gifting vassals. Yes, you can literally give a direct vassal over to another vassal, where they would then no longer be yours directly. Should you conquer a huge kingdom, for instance, and get over your vassal limit, you can solve this issue by consolidating those vassals into a newly conquered region by gifting those smaller ones to a larger one of the region. If you do this, I recommend making sure their new liege is of the same religion and/or culture, as that will help with the control and development, therefore making sure you are getting the maximum taxes and levies out of all those new vassals. Granting any vassal will boost the receiving vassal's opinion of you by +40, and that is also stackable like granting titles, so giving multiple vassals will give a pretty huge boost. While this is obviously a very easy way to swing opinion, I want to emphasize caution in going down this route. It's a slippery slope, and one wrong move you've got yourself a civil war in your hands from vassals that have grouped together to take you on using the vassals you so graciously just gave them. Who makes the best vassals? For this final section, I want to go over what kind of characters make for the best vassals. The answer isn't so black and white, and more plays to your ability to handle potential succession scenarios and your playstyle focus. To start, your own family can be the best kind of vassal simply because it makes succession easier in many ways. Having your family be rulers of their own little domains will reduce the chances that a title will be inherited by someone outside of the realm or family. Assuming you don't have the high crown authority, the risk of that happening is legitimate and can cause some serious breakups throughout larger kingdoms or empires. Keeping it in the direct family ensures that when you die, at least those lands will stay in the realm. The best advice for family owning lands is to make sure you do not have your heir and his brothers or sisters on the same level of titles. If your heir and say his 3 brothers all inherit kingdoms, the empire splits equally among them. So make sure your heir has a higher title than anyone else, so that when they inherit the throne, all family titles stay under his authority. Next up are unlanded characters. Granting titles to someone who has no land will bring another direct vassal under you, giving you more taxes and levies to use. I would only really do this if you are over your domain limit though, as the amount a new vassal would give you would be significantly smaller than what you were getting from that domain directly in the first place. And finally, some of the best vassals are those with high stewardship. A high stewardship skill will directly affect the amount of taxes you can get from any holding. My strategy around that is to give a high stewardship vassal his own vassals, or when I choose an unlanded character, a high stewardship skill is always going to get you that new title. Those should be your 3 biggest factors when deciding who's best to be a vassal. I didn't mention powerful vassals, despite emphasizing them in the opinion section. That's simply because they don't make the best vassals. They are a necessity only because of their power level. They will rarely be my first willing choice when it comes to vassals. And that will wrap up this extended look into vassals in Crusader Kings III. I have no doubt there will be more questions surrounding vassals that I just haven't thought of, and I'm incredibly thankful for the questions you all gave me in the first one, as it's really helped me to cater content directly to what the audience is looking for. I hope that this video helped explain the nuances surrounding vassals though. If it did, be sure to let me know in the comments section, give it a thumbs up, and let people know how helpful this was by sharing it on Twitter, Reddit, and heck, even Facebook. Thanks for watching everyone, subscribe to the channel for more tutorials on Crusader Kings III. This is Havoc, and I'll see you all in the next tutorial video.